When you get too good at exposing corruption and fraud in Los Angeles, there's only one way to get rid of you, and that's try and disqualify you. Bill Essayli, who is the acting U.S. attorney, well, technically not anymore. We're going to get into that story in a little bit, who has been going hard after homelessness, immigration, all those sorts of cases in L.A., trying to expose where all the corruption, where all the skeletons are buried in Los Angeles. Now faced a lawsuit that disqualified him as U.S. attorney in the Central District. We're going to get to that story and more. And if you're part of the 10% who have not yet subscribed to or watching these videos and you want to stay up to date on California politics, make sure you hit that subscribe, like, share button. All that stuff helps with the algorithm. Let's get into that first story right now.
Well, I'm still here. Not planning to go anywhere.
At a news conference this morning, Essayli appeared dismissive of the effect of a federal judge's decision that found the U.S. Justice Department wasn't following federal law in allowing Essayli to continue to act as the U.S. attorney for the Central District of California.
We're still reviewing that order. Is a lengthy order issued yesterday. I'll just say we're less concerned with titles, and we're more concerned with the authority of my position to be able to run this office.
Defense attorneys asked the judge to disqualify Essayli and dismiss 3 criminal cases, arguing that without a permanent, Senate-confirmed U.S. attorney, there were strict time limits that should have ended Essayli's tenure in July. In the ruling released Tuesday evening, U.S. District Court Judge J. Michael Seabright agreed that Essayli had unlawfully overstayed a temporary appointment, but the judge declined to order Essayli out of the prosecutor's office completely and refused to dismiss those criminal cases, writing, Essayli may not perform the functions and duties of the United States Attorney as acting United States Attorney, and Essayli remains the first assistant U.S. attorney and may perform the functions and duties of that office. Essayli says he now holds several simultaneous jobs with different titles, so if he's not allowed to do one, he'll still run the U.S. attorney's office just under a different title.
And so I think the judge has made clear, regardless of my title, I have the authority to run this office.
Asked if he thought the judge intended for the ruling to have no practical effect.
All this is semantics, titles. What matters at the end of the day is that the president won the election. The president gets to control and run the executive branch. And through the attorney general, they get to appoint and designate the people they want to serve at their pleasure.
All right, so the story is that this judge, which we're going to talk about in a second, there was a lawsuit filed basically saying that Bill Essayli has overstayed his welcome. That basically when you are an acting U.S. attorney, you have a certain amount of time that you can be acting U.S. attorney. I think it's like 90 days or something like that. And at a certain point, you have to become like the official U.S. attorney. You can't just always be the acting because it requires the Senate to for nomination, for confirmation, for all of that, for all the formal procedures. Otherwise, they would just start appointing acting people all over, and they would never have to actually be confirmed by the Senate, which is part of our checks and balances, which goes both ways. So, you know, it does go both ways. It does help out both sides if you're one of those people who think that it's only going one way. So basically what happened is that the federal public defender, who is the counterpart to the federal U.S. attorney as prosecutors, filed this lawsuit saying that Bill Essayli is disqualified because he can't say he's the U.S. attorney because he's kind of run out of time. But this Judge Seabright, I wanted to look into him a little bit and figure out who he is, where he was nominated. He was nominated by George W. Bush, so he's not like a Barack Obama appointee or anything like that. Get a little bit idea of who he is and why he might have made this ruling, because I always like to dive into who the people are. And there's one interesting fact that I found about this Judge Seabright. And if you look right here, it says Senior Judge of the United States District Court for the District of Hawaii. And I had to double check that. I thought maybe I got the spelling wrong, or I maybe got the name wrong, or maybe there's another Judge Seabright or something like that. No, he's actually a district judge in Hawaii making a ruling here in Los Angeles. Now, it sounds nefarious, but actually what has happened is this is actually very common when there's a lot of conflict and a lot of judges are conflicted out. And especially when it comes to the U.S. attorney, there's a couple of reasons is that the U.S. attorney works with a lot of judges, and the U.S. attorney's office works with a lot of judges in criminal cases, and there's a lot of conflicts. So a lot of the judges in the Central District are conflicted out, and a lot of them also just don't want to take on these cases because they're so high profile and they deal with like the Trump administration and stuff like that. So it was interesting that I pulled this up and I thought, why is a guy in Hawaii making a decision for us in Los Angeles? But that's the reason, is because there were so many conflicts and stuff like that, that the Court of Appeals, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, actually had to appoint him and designate him as the judge in this case and in this lawsuit. So he came out with this ruling basically saying that Bill Essayli can't say he's the acting U.S. attorney, but what changes is, okay, they'll just give him a different title, one that doesn't require Senate confirmation or anything like that, and he's still basically the first AUSA, the first acting U.S. associate U.S. attorney. So basically he's the second in command now, which doesn't require a Senate confirmation. They're just going to leave the U.S. attorney open and he'll still run the office. And you're probably asking yourself, why haven't they just confirmed him? The Republicans have the Senate. Why don't they just go ahead and confirm Bill Essayli? There's a couple reasons I want to bring up why he's probably not been nominated, or why they're trying not to get him through the nomination process right now. Well, yes, Republicans do have a majority right now. There is an issue with, there is a slim majority, so if anybody defects, that's an issue. He has been tough on immigration. He has been tough on corruption. So you may get some of those wobblers like, Murkowski or somebody like that, or what's her name, Collins up in Maine, those Republicans who are kind of like squishy Republicans, they may change their mind and go, we're not going to confirm them. And with that slim majority, you need every Republican vote you can get. To get it through a Senate nomination, you have to get what are called blue slips from the state's home senators. So in this case, you have Senator Alex Padilla and Senator LaFonza Butler. Yes, do you remember LaFonza Butler? She was appointed by Gavin Newsom solely because she was a black woman, not because of any other qualification. Also, it turned out that she was already a resident of Maryland, but somehow she became the senator of California. Whatever, she replaced Dianne Feinstein, who passed away. You need blue slips from these two senators. This is an interesting tradition that I want to bring up. It all started with this alien-looking guy. Yeah, this is an actual painting of this guy. This is one of the first senators from Pennsylvania. His name was William McClay. This is actually the painting. I swear, he could have been an alien. I don't know. He looks like he's E.T. or something. But this is Senator William McClay, and he's from Pennsylvania. And the issue came up in 1789 when President George Washington nominated Benjamin Huntsman to be a district judge in the federal court. And Senator McClay, or Senator Alien over here, threw a little bit of a hissy fit over it and said, well, you didn't consult me. You didn't consult me about this district judge nominee. He's from my home state. I should have a say about whether or not he should be nominated. So this became sort of the custom and tradition of the Senate. It's not actually a rule, this whole blue slip thing, but regardless, it's become like a custom and tradition, is that the home state senators get to file what are called these blue slips. And this is an example of a blue slip. And from what I make it, this is from 1943. I'm trying to read the cursive at the bottom. It says, this nominee is extremely obnoxious to me. That's what I'm taking away from this. I'm going to say he's extremely obnoxious. So basically, you get these blue slips. They're either approval or no objection from the home state senators. Now, Padilla and Butler can withhold those blue slips and basically hold it up. Again, this is a custom. They don't have to do this. Senator Chuck Grassley is the chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee. They could easily just waive it and go we don't care. We don't want to listen to you. This is just a custom. We can ignore it. But regardless, there is a little bit of a steep uphill battle. So you could see why Bill Essayli is probably going to face some hurdles to even be nominated and appointed as the official U.S. attorney in the Central District. But regardless, Bill Essayli has been one of the most aggressive prosecutors out there who has been going after corruption. He's been going after homelessness. He's been going after immigration. There's a ton of stuff that he's been going after. So it makes sense that a lot of people are trying to get rid of him or disqualify him. They don't want him in power anymore. They don't want a Trump appointee going into Los Angeles and enacting any sort of law and order, along with District Attorney Nathan Hochman, who was a former Republican, now an independent, but they're both trying to institute a lot more law and order up there in Los Angeles. So it makes sense that they're trying to get rid of Bill Essayli because he's probably been a little bit of a thorn in their side. But does this really matter in the end? Well, a little bit yes and no, because yes, because if it finds out that he was acting improperly and they got to throw all these cases out, then that could be a big deal. And a lot of stuff that like he's launched as U.S. attorney could be called into question, maybe invalidated. So that could be a big issue. It also no, and if they say like, well, he can continue to act in these different positions, he'll be like the de facto leader of the U.S. attorney's office, then really it doesn't change anything. That's what I call it, like what's in a name. It doesn't really matter. If he's still leading the U.S. attorney's office, then in the end, he's still going to, enact what his mission is and what President Trump's mission is and try and figure out what's going on in Los Angeles with the homelessness and immigration and all of that. But let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think this makes any difference? Do you see why they're trying to get rid of Bill Essayli? Do you see and kind of understand why you think they're probably trying to get rid of Bill Essayli? Do you think they'll ever try to get him officially nominated as the U.S. attorney? Do you approve of what kind of job he's doing up there in Los Angeles? Let me know what you think in the comments, and we'll see you on the next one. Later.